ado, my boy.
Yep. Thanks, everybody. My name is Fuad Bazzi. I'll say it with you again. It's Fuad. I'm really excited to be here. I appreciate it. Casey's, I love that guy. I mean, I truly, truly love him. You guys are lucky to have a guy like him, a leader like him that's in the community, and the multiple times we've gotten to spend weekends together or even a day off in Dallas. It's just been, I always come back super fired up, motivated, just really like-minded, and 1% better every day. And that's kind of how I run my life and how the clicker. So anyways, really grateful to be here and appreciate you guys taking time out of your days. And I love hearing those wins too. So short-term rentals and asset ownership, that's important to me. And I throw that asset ownership in there because as we go through here, and you guys, may or may not already know quite a bit about Airbnb and short-term rental and how it works, but there are multiple ways to do it. You don't have to own the assets or the property. I choose the ownership method because that's a method that I like. And that's part of the goal and vision, and the clicker is not working, Leandra. There we go. All right.
Like a wink and a nod. If it's not, she could change it.
All right, cool. So agenda is cool, and it's funny, as I was putting this slide together, I'm like, does anybody actually stop and talk about the agenda so we can click right through here? Who am I? My family, really simply the title of the slide. They're my top 3 priorities, right? I mean, they are everything in my life. They're why I do what we do. I think they're why we all do what we do, right? I mean, we're all trying to kind of find ways to spend more time and dive deep with our family. So that's my wife and my 3 children. And, I'm the father of the Mad Sibs. All 3 of my kids, Imad, Ahmed, and Medina, they all have the word Mad in their names. So that wasn't planned. It was, our boys are Imad and Ahmed. Imad is named after my dad. Ahmed is named after my wife's dad. And then we just had to stick with it when we had Medina. And so, even when they're happy, they'll always be mad. That's kind of the saying in our house. But they are our pride and joy, and they are why we do what we do. I was a banker for 21 years, finance background, and I had an awesome job. To be honest with you, in banking, I had an amazing job. I was a consultant, and I got to spend about 80% of my time with CEOs and CFOs on golf courses and sports stadiums. But I had to do that all over the country, and I was gone 15 weeks out of the year. And so when we had our 3rd daughter, it was a lot of fun, gaining a lot, but what am I really doing? They're there and I'm all over the place. And that started to really take a toll. My wife's an attorney and she has her own practice. And so we kind of started putting together our vision that we attacked our debt. We got super intensive about attacking our debt, getting debt free. And we knew when we did that, we could then shift to not having to rely on me, solely relying on her income, and then me getting a little bit entrepreneurial and being able to come back and spend 52 weeks out of the year at home, which I'm not anymore because I'm in short-term rental all over the country except for Detroit. But anyways, when I say that out loud. So I left corporate in 2019. We achieved our goals. And, 2019, this was not the plan. I mean, I left corporate, got into the coffee industry, started a few coffee shops, had kids play places and long-term rentals, started investing in that. And then, just kind of with my consulting background, my wife had a firm and they had some, she's an attorney and she and her partners were attorneys. They weren't really planning on building out kind of a real big business, and they had gotten to 50 employees and they had high turnover. They weren't really putting in processes and things that really tailored to culture and company and longevity. It was just kind of everybody come to work, do your job. Kind of people were losing track of why they were coming in. So they had really high turnover and people weren't always that happy. So came into her business as well, chief growth officer at the firm. And, the mission was real specific. And this, I'll tell you guys, partnering with my wife, I mean, not partnering, it was hers, but working with my wife, this took a lot of how are we going to do this and not get a divorce? So we had to be really, really mission driven. What are we really doing? So it was, let's implement some core values. Let's really get the mission. Let's get it aligned. Let's stop the bleeding and have people stop quitting. And by doing that, we couldn't go 3 years without giving people raises anymore. So we implemented just real good human resource policies. And once we kind of got it to where we wanted it, it was time to hire my successor. And I was able to turn that over and then start focusing on me. And then COVID punches us in the face. Coffee shops were in, no revenue at all for 6 months because we were on total lockdown. I'm sure it was real similar here.
Can I ask a question?
Shoot.
How do you go about hiring your successor?
So we promoted internally, but it was somebody that unintentionally we had been grooming for that anyways. But look, what I always say is, don't hire somebody that's going to do exactly what you were doing. Hire somebody that's going to do it better, right? So it's about, I took it, I made it better than it was, but I'm not so prideful to think that I made it as good as it could ever be. There's somebody that could for sure take it and take it even further than I did, right? So yeah, I think that was our whole focus, was not just hiring a successor that could, be me. It was who could be better than me. That was our entire focus. And we knew that internally we had somebody there that knew that firm inside out, had ran the gamut on all the different jobs and knew all the tasks and knew everything about every department of that firm. And it was just, it was easy for us. It's not always easy, but I always say make sure you're not hiring the same person. Hire somebody with a completely different perspective, more experience than you, better experience than you, and then can take that thing and carry it and take it even further. Close the coffee shop business. That wasn't going to work. We had a landlord that wasn't really that friendly with us bringing in zero revenue. And that's kind of where I started realizing, at the same time, I should say I had some long-term rentals, and I realized I was a terrible landlord. And when I say that, I'd get the phone call, hey, wife and I are getting divorced. We've got 2 kids. We can't make payments anymore. Dude, stay as long as you need to, man. I'm not putting your kids on the street. That's not happening. And, out of the goodness of my heart, that's great, but that's no longer an investment, right? Now I'm losing money. But I was never going to change that. And I'll tell you, probably everybody talks about like their superpower, and I hate saying that, but mine is, I'm good at telling you what I'm not good at, and I was not going to change that. I was going to be caring. I'm never going to stop being caring and putting people first. And there are no babies that are going to get kicked out of a house on my dime. That's just never ever going to happen, right? So waited till those people moved out, put that house for sale. I had sold the other ones already, got out of that, and I knew long-term rentals wasn't going to happen for me. I love customer experience. That's where I built my banking career. I love pleasing people. That's why I was a bad landlord. And we had been traveling with short-term rentals for a while since we had kids, because we knew that in hotel rooms having kids, it wasn't fun, right? They go to sleep and you got to whisper and there's no talking and any of that. So, that shifts us into, why STR for me. So A, not a good landlord, but addicted to real estate. Love that. We're Airbnb and VRBO travelers ourselves. And third, Medina. So Medina, my daughter, who's now 3, when she was 1, we find out she has severe nut allergies. And we live in Detroit, and the best food allergist in the world is in Long Beach, California. So we get her into this program, February 21, first appointment, they take her blood work, second appointment was in May. And we find out that her program was gonna be a 4-year program where we have to be there for every 2 months. The program is like custom to her blood work. And so, math guy, banker, start doing the math on renting in California. Anybody here ever rented in California before? It's not cheap. Not cheap at all. And so I started doing the math, and I'm like, this is going to be like $50,000 over 4 years. So that doesn't make sense. Hey, let's get an Airbnb. Let's buy one in Huntington Beach. Let's launch it. Let's do it, and it'll be fun. So just so happens that the day that I'm going out to look at properties out there, just as an investment, again, there's a mastermind. I'd never been to a mastermind, never been a part of a mastermind, so I joined this mastermind, and the very first session, it's crazy, right? Like, at the time I was looking at this, like, it's $30,000 to join this thing, it's 12 months, I get 4 events, am I ever gonna see that $30,000 again? What's it gonna happen? I went in there, the very first speaker was about Airbnb. I walked out of there saying, I'm gonna launch the biggest Airbnb company that I could have ever dreamed of, and I got $30K value out of the first speaker in that room. I mean, because I took like this vision into like putting it on paper. So, no wrong answers in real estate. That's like something I really, really wanted to hone in on. That was the last thing I wrote on there. Probably every one of us has a different vision in how we want to do real estate, what it could be multifamily, I heard duplex or quadplex, I think, there could be Section 8, flipping, wholesaling, all that. Like, I love real estate just because there's no wrong answer. Like, make sure that no matter what, like, unapologetically go with your vision. And the longer you go into real estate, you're going to do fine. I mean, buying and holding. But this is just the way I wanted to do it. So benefits of short-term rentals and why I wanted to do what I do, because it's the fourth one there, the cash flow, right? Depreciation, equity, and appreciation. I think we all agree that happens with almost every real estate transaction that we do, regardless of the kind of real estate that we buy. But what I also found in long-term rentals when I wasn't a good landlord was there's also really not a lot of cash flow that goes into those, right? Or it comes out of those, I should say. And with short-term rental, that's very different, because having done that a few times in California, again, I realized real quickly there's quite a bit of cash flow that people were making on me. And so that was kind of the kicker for me. So some facts, short-term rental, over 1 million short-term rental homes and growing. And so this thing, like supply, we were just talking about this at lunch, supply in short-term rental has exploded the last couple of years, especially with COVID. And it got to a point during COVID where it was just like, no strategy, doesn't matter what you bought, just buy something, throw it on Airbnb, and it's gonna work fine. Because people got sick of sitting in their homes and being trapped. Everybody just wanted to go do something. And so everything worked. And, it's changing everything. It's changing the way people travel. It's changing all that. But now that we're kind of past COVID, now that that's behind us, it's not like that anymore. Now you have to run this thing like a business. You really do, to separate and differentiate and kind of continue to build up your own customer base, people that are coming to you directly and all that. And we'll continue to talk about that as we go. Regulatory body, that continues to evolve. That's something that you really got to know. Anytime you're entering a market, you have to dive deep into the local ordinances. And even within an ordinance, you might find an HOA that doesn't allow it, even though the city allows it and all this. So, there's an extensive amount of research that goes into this. And there's also, beyond what's on paper today, it's like you have to really kind of forecast what's going to come. You have to dive into the city council meeting and the agenda meetings and really get to go to a city meeting and listen to the city council. Is it even on their agenda? Are they talking about it? Because if they are, and it's allowed today, what's their temperament moving forward? Are the hotel lobbyists getting into their ears? So you really have to really start to think about what is going to happen, what's happening today and what's going to happen in the future. And a mix of both. This is important that when you get into short-term rental, you don't have to solely be short-term rental. So case in point, we're building one in Phoenix right now. And this is like a super luxe one that has a beautiful view of Camelback Mountain. And the idea in this one for us is, in Scottsdale and Phoenix, there are six major league teams that have their spring baseball there. So we're going to focus on getting kind of not a long-term, but a mid-term stay in there for 2, 3, 4 months. Just these baseball players that go down there and train for months at a time. So kind of get a mix of that. And then when they're out of there, short-term rent it for the rest of the year. And it's just a good way to, whether it's protection of revenue or in that case, it'll be an acceleration of revenue as well. So different strategies that you can go with. So common pitfalls and things that can really derail an investment in short-term rentals. So failing to research, we just talked about that, right? But beyond the ordinances, what are the softwares you're using? How are you underwriting these deals? This market is good for tourism, so I think it's going to be good as an Airbnb. That's not good enough, right? What's good enough in your market is different than good enough in another market, right? What house do you need? What amenities do you need? Down to is a hot tub good enough, or do you need a pool? What happens if you don't have a cornhole? Literally, down to that kind of research, those are the things that are going to set you apart and for success long term. Don't decide impulsively. We've gotten a really good feel for the numbers, the formula, but shiny. What do they call it? Shiny squirrel. What is it? Shiny what object? Shiny object syndrome, right? Oh my God, that house looks cool. Maybe, for you, does it work for Airbnb? You really got to do your research though. Mismanaging cash flow.
I'm that one with you specifically because you showed me a house on the bull.
He's like, buy it, hurry up, buy it. But yeah.
When you're doing your research and you're using websites, do you use AirDNA, and have you heard or have you experienced any pitfalls from AirDNA with inaccurate projections of revenue?
Yeah. Yes. So there are multiple websites. AirDNA is one of them. AirDNA is the most popular, and so AirDNA is really good for a software, for your run-of-the-mill 3-star Airbnb. it's the law of averages, and it's a collection of everything. So we focus on the luxury side and the experience side, and AirDNA does not do a good job of capturing that, because your 5, 6, 7 bedroom, super luxury, super experience driven home is intertwined with the 1 bedroom apartment, right? Not that the one is better than the other, but you can't compare them. They're just completely different. And so it's what we found where it really hurts us. I've gotten good at understanding my differentials versus, I know I can outperform AirDNA by about 30 to 35%. Where it's a kicker though is with the appraisers. So when you're financing the short-term rental, they come out and they're gonna do your deal based on your rental income, your projected rental income. And so if AirDNA says X, it's like, dude, I know what I can do. I know what AirDNA is saying because of the house that's down the street that has not been updated, that doesn't have a pool, that doesn't this and that. But they don't care. I mean, like any lender in any side of real estate, they're all numbers driven. So they're protecting themselves. So we've had to kind of fight with these guys quite a bit. And our fight, it's been pretty, I'm not going to call it hard or easy. It's time intensive. And what we have to end up doing is building out comps for them and showing them, this is what AirDNA said at this house for me. This is what I did. This is what they said at this house. This is what we did. So we end up having to jump through quite a few hoops. So it's helped us really focus on trying to underwrite these deals as long-term rentals. Because if we know we can do that, then it's protected us that if it is a flop for whatever reason as a short-term rental, we know that we can fall back and fill this thing up and really protect ourselves on that side, and then make an exit if we have to. But it also makes the financing side way easier. Don't mismanage your cash flow. This is a big deal. So like industry average says 10% on furnishing your place. 10% of the purchase price is what it'll cost you to furnish your place. And that's from couches down to the pillows, down to the sheets and the silverware, your first order of laundry detergent, all of that stuff. We've been able to manage that down to 6% without sacrificing quality. And it's because we've curated the right vendors, the right purchasers, the right design team. I'm involved enough, but also out of it enough so that we found the right formula to doing that on launch, but also making sure that we got our cleaners in. That's the nice thing in Scottsdale, for instance, I've got 5 now. Like, I'm a big deal for my maintenance guy. I'm a big deal for my cleaners. I'm a big deal for my property manager, right? If you have one, you'd be like, I don't care about that full-out guy. If I lose him, I'll gain another one, right? But I've got 5 properties. I hold a lot of leverage with these guys now.
How'd that work when you got your first in Scottsdale? Like, how were you curating that, figuring out for your first deal before you had a track record in Scottsdale?
So we launched 2 right away.
Okay.
In order to build a little bit of scale right away. Leverage wasn't, we were still on the kind of get to know you with that team. But I'll tell you, I didn't go with the cheapest cleaning team. Here's one thing that I think the biggest mistake people make is they negotiate really hard with their cleaners. And I say, if your cleaner says it'll cost you $200 to clean this place, offer them $225. Take care of your cleaners. They are everything in Airbnb. And one bad experience, one bad review like that, it kills your business. Like it'll destroy you, right? And those people are the ones that are in it all the time, and that extra $25 will go such a long way where you start getting proactive feedback from them, not just like, hey, we're in it and we're cleaning and we're out. But don't negotiate with your cleaners. They are the most important part of your whole thing. So take care of them up front, but 4 months later when we launched number 3 and 4, I negotiated my price down then. So it was just scaling the right way.
How are you looking at your market indicators? Before you enter a market, how do you know, are you looking at historical data? Are you looking at certain long-term comps or short-term comps? How's that?
Good question. So I can get really deep with this one. So one of the things that I don't do is tell you I'm going to be the highest cash-on-cash return in Airbnb history. That's not my approach. It's not my philosophy. It's not my goal. Going back to kind of the ownership side that I was telling you guys, you can do arbitrage, you can do all kinds of Airbnb. I want to do ownership. So for me, it's not as important to be at 40% cash on cash with non-appreciating assets. I want appreciating assets. So I'm getting into markets and neighborhoods where I know we can appreciate, right? And I have a very specific buying model that I'll talk about as we go here. But that's why I'm comfortable with 16 to 20% cash on cash, which is still really good relative to any other real estate investment, right?
If you're in this room and you think 16 to 20% cash on cash return for an appreciating asset isn't good enough, good at
Get out. So, but my point in answering that way is, I don't want tourism or Airbnb to be the leading thing. So for instance, if you look at Destin or Gulf Shores, those guys their number one market is tourism. I don't want those markets because you're going to end up fighting on price wars, and I am like, no thank you. I just don't want to be that guy. I'm fighting on quality. I go in and I differentiate myself with our experience, with our customer service. That's how we differentiate ourselves. If I have to fight with everybody else that's doing the same thing as me just on price, that's an ugly business that I just don't even want to touch, right? Like I just have zero interest. So we make sure that tourism is like number 2 or number 3 industry. In Scottsdale, what do you got? 2 years running now, you've got the most startup money in the country invested in that city. You've got semiconductor chip plants being built in there at $40 billion a piece, employing 10,000 employees, right? And those 10,000 employees spur another 40,000 employees citywide with your road workers, with your hospitality industry, with your restaurant workers. So I'm only looking at markets that I know have census data tells us there's population growth the next 5 to 10 years. So all of these things are saying my asset is going to appreciate. Hopefully it'll continue to work as an Airbnb, and if it doesn't, we know we have appreciating assets that are paying for themselves.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Yes.
You mentioned experience a number of times and how important that is to your philosophy. I'm interested to hear how at 6% of your furnishings, you're creating an interior experience.
Yeah.
Keeps that high on the list.
Good question. So not all of the properties are experience driven. They're all luxury driven. And by luxury, I mean Ritz-Carlton, Four Seasons. And why do I want to do that? With that, ultimately that makes me recession proof, because you know that the Ritz-Carlton and the Four Seasons, these guys are way smarter than I am. They've done way more due diligence on what travelers want than I have, right? Those, when you look at them in the hospitality space, they don't discount the rates. Regardless of what's happening in the economy, recession, doesn't matter. They still got the highest rates in the hospitality industry. They set the standard, and their guests want that, and they're traveling no matter what. They can afford travel no matter what, right? So by going after that customer base and furnishing my property the way those guys would, and updating and using the same color palettes as those guys do, so I use them as my model. And by doing that, we've already marketed to their clientele. Beyond that, we've got 2 properties right now that are experiential driven. So one of them is a fitness yard. It's our smallest home. It's an 1,800 square foot home, 5 minutes north of Old Town Scottsdale. We got a 1/4 acre backyard, 6 outdoor exercise stations like you would see on a hiking trail. And we've got a heated pool, sand volleyball court, a strip turf with a push sled, and the garage is turned into a full gym. And we've got bikes. So we've made this a fitness experience. We want to host fitness retreats and fitness masterminds. And we're going to be announcing here really soon. I'll tell you guys. But John, actually, I think it's okay too. I think it's okay. He hasn't signed the dotted line yet, but I know he's gonna. So former NFL player John Madsen, who lives in Scottsdale now, he retired from the NFL after 5 years, and he's in the physical fitness / excellence mindset game. And his clients are paying him like $10,000 a month for just like fitness routines and mindset routines and all of that. And he has people flying into Scottsdale all the time to meet with him. So his brand is the Suprahuman. So we're actually going to, right now our house is named the Fitness Park of Old Town. We're changing that to be the Supra House of Scottsdale. We're going to brand the heck out of it with his thing, where he's going to fill up 80% of it. We're going to host some seminars. I don't know if he'll personally be doing it, but the coaches in his team might chip in. But we're going to use that as an experience, and it's going to drive up our revenue. Glad to share it with him because he's going to be a big part of that. And so that's how we're ultimately doing it. The house is turnkey. And so all we got to do is furnish it. And again, it's curating the right designers and getting good buying power and stuff. Poor management, that's another one. So, this is where you've got to have a great team. My initial goal in Scottsdale, get to 2 or 3 houses, move to the next market. Found a killer team, found great people. My property manager, she cares about that home as if all those homes as if she lived in them. She probably cares more than I do. I get, my maintenance guy will call me and say, Kathy's back in town, huh? Man, oh my God. And it's like, dude, this house doesn't get the 5-star reviews that it gets without Kathy. And that's really, really important to me. So poor management, all these things right here, those are the keys. So what does it take to add a property? It's not fast, it's not quick. Again, it was during COVID, and I think people got the shiny object syndrome kind of thing, but it's not like that. Right now, you have to run this thing like a business. You just absolutely have to. Research analysis, ordinances, homes, financial underwriting. So we talked about AirDNA a little bit. So there are multiple websites that I use. I use a website called STR Insights. STR Insights doesn't help me pick the home, it helps me pick the market. So it's really good at analyzing markets. You can filter, in this market, should I look at 5-bedroom, 4-bedroom, 3-bedroom? Where's my highest ROI? Because if you've got a 5-bedroom home, but that market has a lot of people coming in, but it's a lot of couples, they're not going to need a 5-bedroom home, right? So you're just not going to fit. Conversely, if you've got a condo with 1 bedroom and 1 little kitchenette, but majority of groups have 10 people, your beautiful condo is not going to rent, right? So you have to understand what's going to happen in each market. STR Insights helps me do that. AirDNA is where I can take that, get into a city, and then now really look at one address at a time. It's got a tool in there. You have to pay for your market data in AirDNA, but what's free is a tool called the Rentalizer. The Rentalizer, you can put in an address, you can put in the number of bedrooms, bathrooms that you have, and you can look at it. And again, if you're going to take a luxury approach at this and be really high end with your amenities, with your furniture, just know that you can, with really good management, you can outperform AirDNA by about 30 to 35%. Acquire and launch, so you got to close, you got to furnish this thing, you got to list it. And our timeline, because we've done this repetitively, we've got a really good timeline. We're closing in 2 weeks on the house that we're building. We've already bought the majority of our stuff. We've already got all the furniture in. We've got a storage unit. Everything is ready to go. Artwork is all curated and ready to go. I mean, we've got our timelines. And as soon as we take possession of that home, it's go time. And it's 2 weeks. That thing is ready to go and it's launched. So we launch it on Airbnb the minute I close. Go in there with my iPhone, boom, pictures, vacant. I don't care. I'm not going to be able to drive a lot of traffic with those kinds of pictures, but I'm going to drive a little bit of traffic with those kinds of pictures. And then I'm going to furnish it, and I'm going to get my professional pictures. And once that goes, it's gangbusters. I mean, we've gotten, we're on average, our first booking will check in about 12 days after our professional pictures go on. So I mean, we've got a pretty good cadence to this as well. Having a good list. I mean, don't guess. Don't think like, oh, cool, I've done this before. I think I can do this again. We've got a checklist, and we live and die by that. We'll have a weekly meeting leading up to it, 3 weeks prior to our launch, prior to our close, I should say. That says, guys, what have we done on our checklist? What have we done on our checklist? We got everything. And I mean, we're going through that thing item by item. I'm maniacal about the details, because if you're not, I mean, you're gonna miss one, and then it's gonna bear fruit in the reviews for sure. And then it's rent and monitor, right? It's the first 3 to 6 months, you're really getting a good feel. You gotta listen to your customers. It's really important. What I've learned with our customers and our guests, like any business, is they don't expect perfection. They expect perfect communication and set the right expectations. So I'm real clear with them. Hey guys, you're our first guest. I'm so excited for you guys to experience this. We put so much love and care. Here's all the stuff that we've done. Here's what we think you're gonna experience. I can't wait to hear your feedback. When you do that, if something's not perfect, they're good. Like they know that you've set the right expectation with them. They're gonna come to you. They're not gonna leave that feedback on Airbnb. They're gonna give you a 5-star feedback on Airbnb, but they're gonna come to you and be like, hey, you might wanna consider this, or there was, I would have really liked another full-size mirror. There was only one of them, and we were all cramming into one closet. It's like, cool, thanks for that feedback. That's perfect, right? Like you want your guests are your number one advocate if you allow them to be, and they're your biggest enemy if you don't allow them to be, right? So like that's really, really important. So once you get really comfortable with that kind of communication, they'll help you kind of monitor how to go. And the other thing is scaling and scaling your pricing model. So we go in, like, okay, for instance, our one property in Scottsdale, we launched last year. January 7th was our first guest, and all spring we averaged about $750 a night on that home. And this coming spring, we're averaging about $1,100 a night. So when you launch at a price discounted to what you think you're going to eventually get. You let those first 5 bookings come in. Once you've got 5 bookings, they don't have to have stayed already. Just get those 5 bookings in and then raise by $50. Those 5 bookings come in, you get those reviews. Now you've got a track record. You're no longer the 0 review guy when guests look at you. So you see 5 reviews. They all look really good. They're booking. They're booking at that new rate that you increased $50. So now you got 5 more bookings, increase again. You get 5 more reviews, increase again. and again and again. And then that's how you scale that. And eventually, once you get to a point where those bookings don't come in anymore, stop and pull back to that last price raise, and that's where you know you are. And then that's going to change seasonally too, as well. You want to know your seasons as well.
How do you promote reviews?
Social media is my biggest driver. Airbnb, it is, they're just seeing it, but I post it all over our social media. And, when we get inquiries, I'm driving people to my social media left and right? Like, hey, thanks for your inquiry. Yes, is your pool heated? Yeah, absolutely. Our pool is heated. Check us out on Instagram. Here's our tag. You'll see our core values. You'll see our approach to hosting. That's really important.
Different question. I think his question, because we struggle with this.
How do you incentivize?
Like, how do you incentivize your guests to give you a review?
Well, we ask for it. I mean, we're real clear about it. When they leave, hey, we really hope we got one. We're going to give you one. You were our guest. My cleaner said you guys were really good guests. They checked out and appreciate that. Thank you guys for respecting our home. We'd really appreciate it. It's really important to our business. We haven't had, good thing is, I don't know if it's the price point we're at where we've got guests that just commonly leave it. I have heard some hosts that have to beg for it. We haven't had to, luckily. But we're also communicating with them outside of Airbnb when they leave. Like, hey, thanks so much. You guys were so respectful to our asset. This is an investment for us. Next time you or any of your guests book, you guys get 10% off with us. Feel free to come direct, save my phone number. It'll save you money on the Airbnb fees. And they jump right into Airbnb and they give us reviews.
Managing that process, right? So if you start to have a lot of people coming.
Virtual assistants. It's all happening through our team. We've got 4 virtual assistants in the Philippines. And I even hate using that phrase. I mean, I hate using the phrase virtual assistants because they are every bit of colleagues and team members. They're grateful for the opportunities. They're super accountable. And they're $4 an hour. So talk about, sorry, one second, just taking those really low ROI tasks off your plate and being able to efficiently get them off. Not just because they're $4 an hour, that's a huge benefit, but they're grateful and they're accountable. Those are like the 2 biggest things that I hire for. I get pictures from them all the time, like, hey, we're pictures of their kids' birthday parties. We've never been able to throw our kids a birthday party before. Thank you so much. Like, it's awesome. Like, it's amazing.
What are realistic barriers to entry? Insurance?
Insurance is expensive.
I mean, what other costs are?
Yeah, insurance is expensive.
There have to be. You're mentioning pools.
Yep.
I'm thinking, what if something happens to my kid?
Yeah. Insurance is a big deal. I mean, it's expensive. On average, we're paying about $3,500 a year per house. We've got rental agreements up the wazoo, 15-page rental agreement that I make every guest sign, and if they won't sign it, they're not staying. It's pretty simple.
Does Airbnb offer any hurdles to jump over or through? Or
No.
is that relationship?
No, that's all in there. I mean, they've got good protection insurance offerings as well. But barriers of entry are just simply, lending. I mean, you got to have good lending partners. So majority of loans on the Airbnb side, you're going to spend 25 to 30%. We've just recently built a really good relationship with a credit union where we're going to be able to get 20% down moving forward. Just the cost of it, and again, building out the right management team. This is not. I will tell you. I mean, there's 2 ways to do this. It's active and it's passive. Passive means you give me your money and we scale together. We partner on a couple deals together, and you let me just run the whole thing, and you just sit back and collect a check. But if it's something you want to manage, self-manage, or even hire a property management. I mean, I was talking to Dan earlier. Dan's got a property management company. I don't know if you can attest to whether it's completely passive or if you're taking phone calls sometimes. But, from what...
It's passive. I mean, there's been a couple scenarios where I've had to get involved. Like,
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're going to take on the self-management like I do, it's not passive at all. It's very active. It's very active. Yep.
Are you using DSCR loans or no?
Well, we've used a couple of them, and I didn't mind them at the 5 and 6% interest rates. What's real prohibitive about the DSCR loans is the origination fees. So you're typically paying somewhere between 2 and 4%, and our average price point is about 1.4 million. So that's really prohibitive. Not prohibitive, because if they underwrite with those terms, you know you're getting a good one. But that's really, what's really nice now is we have a track record. I was able to go to this credit union. We've got 20% down payments now. We've got no origination fees, just a couple $1,000s in closing costs, and 7% fixed terms for 30 years. So we're really happy with that.
Say something real quick.
Yep.
And shame on me, I didn't listen enough, but our good friend Tim from RCA Capital, and I don't know if you talked to him last week or not, but he was saying the short-term rentals, the DSCR market right now is just insanely uncertain and dead.
Yep.
Which doesn't bode well at the end of the day to get financing. My point is, number one, to his point, you need to be talking to people local to wherever you want to be buying these, and you've got to get many options, because you never know. It's like when you think about things you can't control, financing is one of the things you can't control. So the more options you have, the better off you're going to be, especially in the short-term rental space right now, because I do believe it is right now it is a weird point in time where most of these lenders don't know where the market's going. And again, shame on me for not listening a little bit more to the conversations, but again, when you're in that short-term space, you've got to get a lot of options on the financing side.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I tell you, if you've got great banking relationships, if you don't start now, make those relationships, kind of start talking to them and letting them know what you want to do. And again, if they underwrite as long-term rentals, is it?
Hit the top. Tap the top of it. Let's talk about it for a minute.
Okay. So if you build a good, if it underwrites as a long-term rental, yeah, it's way better than not, for sure. Oh, there we go. There we go. Cool. So these are some numbers. I'm not gonna. Yes, sir.
You said you have 15-page leases?
Mm-hmm.
With who?
It's a rental agreement, and I make all my guests sign it. So when they book, you kind of walk you through our booking process. Guest books, virtual assistants see that booking, create a rental agreement. It goes to the guest in DocuSign. Guest sees it. We make them initial the bottom of every single page, but then there are several clauses that I make them initial right next to those clauses as well. Even though they're initialing at the bottom of that page, like don't smoke inside my house or it's $5,000. Boom, right next to that clause. Don't bring a pet inside my house or it's $5,000. Boom, right next to that clause. Don't throw a party. If anybody is in here that's not on this agreement, $5,000. Boom, right next to that clause, right? We've had no issues. So that's once they sign that, comes back, we then send them their guidebook. Anybody stay at an Airbnb? Go into the kitchen, there's a binder and it tells you like all their favorite restaurants, and you open the first page, there's ketchup on it, second page has syrup on it, third page, like ugh, like so disgusting, right? So we avoid all of that. We have an electronic guidebook that we send them, and that's what we use. But yeah.
Cool. And then you put a big emphasis on your checklist.
Yep.
Can you give a couple examples of things on the checklist?
Yeah, so one is what is all the furniture that we're gonna buy for this home, right? And that I have an input in our checklist. I enter how many bedrooms and how many bathrooms, and it increases or decreases the quantity of items pending that. So that's the first checklist, is what is the inventory that we're gonna have. Second checklist is all the access codes. So we've got the front door access code, we've got the garage code, we've got where is the key hidden in case the one door fails, what are the bike lock codes, what is a code lock to the master closet, to the owner's closet where we keep all of our supplies, what are the passwords for YouTube TV. So like all these different things, that goes on one checklist as well. Yep, my pleasure. Vendors is the third list. Who's my HVAC, who's my plumber, who's my electrician, pool company.
Follow-up question to the rental agreement. Are you having your real estate attorney write this for you?
Yep, absolutely.
Now, are they like specifically experienced in STRs?
So the ones that I did were not. They're just contract attorneys, actually. I wouldn't even call them real estate attorneys, or just contract attorneys. Through their listservs and all the stuff that they have access to all different kinds of agreements that have been used in the real estate industry. So they pulled the ones that we liked. We looked at a few of them, put together the best swing that we had. So we've got one with pools and one without pools. but otherwise they're the same.
Okay, yeah, because I know we're using currently one through like our property management platform, but that would be something we want to look into.
Yeah, and if you connect with me, you shoot me an email. My information I think will come up here. I'm glad to share mine with you as well.
Thank you.
Yep, my pleasure. I won't bore you guys with all these numbers and walk you through each property, but this is these are the numbers that we look at. We're looking at 16 to 20% cash on cash returns at each house. There are 4 primary variables to the overall return on each of these homes. Appreciation, can't guarantee it, right? Can't guarantee it, but we've got a really specific model that we use to purchase and acquire. So you've got your appreciation, you've got tax depreciation, you've got the equity build, and you've got the, oh, there we go. Ugh, can I have the other one? I'm just kidding. Oh, my voice always punches me in the face. Like, and then you've got the cash from the rental income, right? So these are all the ways that you kind of evaluate what is the performance of the property. So one property, our California property, that's our lowest cash on cash return. That one's at 15%. But in 13 months, we've appreciated $700,000. So again, we have a very specific model that we use to know that these are going to appreciate. Let me talk about that. So one of my things, I'm not a builder, I'm a banker at core. Give me a hammer and a nail, I promise you I'll break my thumb. And so managing BRRRR projects from BRRRR, everybody knows BRRRR. So managing rehab projects from Detroit, halfway across the country, I have zero interest. I don't have the appetite, I don't have the skill set, I don't have the desire, I don't have the trust and relationships out there yet for any of that stuff. Just a nightmare waiting to happen. You know what's really fun is buying these properties, putting furniture in them, and start getting really happy guests in them. That is fun for me. That is what I get excited about. So how do I still get the forced appreciation that you would get with a BRRRR without actually doing the rehab? I find a neighborhood that has, I find a neighborhood where I can buy a turnkey luxury property where it's less than 50% remodeled in that neighborhood already. If it's already greater than 50% remodeled, I don't want it. There's not enough new money that's gonna come to that neighborhood. But even if I'm just the second turnkey remodeled home in that neighborhood, I know the builder's gonna look and he's gonna be like, okay, 1 and 2 have already done it. I can go buy in that neighborhood for $800K. I can put $500K in that home and I can sell it for 1.8. I'm all in. That's what the builder says, right? So he's going to come in, he's going to buy 4 or 5 homes in that neighborhood. He's got the systems, he's got the skill set, he's got the leverage and the buying power and all the infrastructure. Boom, let him do it. So he brings all the new money into the neighborhood, and that's raising the floor of my property. And so in 13 months, I say we're 6 properties in. Number 4 and number 5 and number 6 are just new, so I'm not going to count those. But on the other 4, we've appreciated $2.4 million already. So I'm hugely focused on this. I'm really focused on gaining the wealth through the appreciation of the equities. I hear a lot of Airbnb people talk about 40% cash on cash returns, and it's awesome. Not saying that's not good. That's their vision. And they should hammer the hell out of that vision, because stay true to what works for you. Like, that's my number one, advice that I give anybody in real estate. For me, what works, this is my model. I'm way more focused on the equity accumulation than I am the cash on cash. The cash on cash for me must come in. I want that. If I'm underwriting a deal at 2% cash on cash, I don't want that deal. I don't care what the appreciation looks like, unless I'm the only investor. If I don't have an investor on that deal, maybe I'll take that on my own. But if I'm bringing in an investor, that won't work for me. Because we do bring in investors, and I haven't talked about that yet. Leandra, if we want to jump, we'll talk about this. So we've got, I told you we've got the 5 live. We've got 1 in Huntington Beach, 1 in Scottsdale, or 3 in Scottsdale, 1 in Phoenix, and then we've got 1 more coming in Phoenix here shortly. And then these are the markets that we want to grow in. Again, census data, population growth. Although people talk about, you hear like the horror stories of California, and it's, blue state, nobody wants to be there. Guys, it's a freaking ocean. There's 1 of 4 of them in the world. Everybody wants to be there, and everybody's always going to want to be there. We put it on the market in May, and I got an over ask price, and I declined it because they wanted to close in 10 days. And the reason these guys were buying and buying so aggressively was they had a 1031 exchange that was expiring in 10 days, and they had to get it out of their pocket. So they told their agent, we only got 10 days left, get close to the ocean and find me a property. Simple, capital preservation for the wealthy, right? So like California, it'll always be, and plus I freaking love the place, it's beautiful. So anyways, all right, we're good there. So here's an example. Here's an example of one of our properties. So this is the before, this is the fitness yard. This is what the backyard looked like. You got this beautiful little olive tree that made a mess all over my yard. You got gorgeous, dead grass because it's Scottsdale and it's really hard to keep things green there. You got a nice pool with kind of an older, paver model all around it. And if you look in the middle there, all those trees, that row of trees that come across the center of the yard. You can't see it here, but there's about 50 feet of depth behind that to the back wall. So that was what it looked like when we bought it. And here's the vision. In case you actually saw me kind of like see a property and get really visionary of the property before. So first, this is kind of what we did. We drew up kind of got our vision. We knew exactly what we wanted to do. We set our standard, we set our theme, we talked, what do we have? We have views, we have amenities. What are our views? How are we going to maximize those views? What location are we in? So these are some of the things that we're identifying and thinking about as we're deciding what theme to use. So go to the next page for me here. And so that's what it looks like now. So we've got beautiful heated pool. You can't even tell that's an old paved thing. We've got artificial turf because artificial turf is always green without having to use a sprinkler system, without having to have plumbers fix your sprinkler systems, without having to have people mow your lawn, without having to have people clean up after they mow your lawn, all of that stuff. We've got the pergola there that provides a little bit of shade. You can kind of tell, it's hard, but you can see the rope climb. That's one of the stations. We've got the ab bench tucked in the trees. Got the dip bench there. We've got the pull-up bars. We've got the leg raises, and then the hurdle. There's 3 little hurdle things over here. This is the turf, the strip turf that we now have the push sled on. And the pool is heated, and like I said, we've got the bikes in the garage, and the garage is a full gym.
You could tell me the pound salt, but I'm curious what that renovation on the exterior cost you.
$68,000 total.
Yeah. Literally completely changed the entire property, what it's going to bring in.
Yeah, we're averaging, we in average property, with the previous yard, we probably could have got about $400 a night, and we're averaging about $1,200 a night. And I think we're about 80% booked for the spring right now.
Let that sink in for a minute, right?
68K, we'll make that all back this spring,
if you really
easily.
Plan, right, and you strategize and you think about it, small things can make insane differences.
Yep, no doubt. So, and these are things just sharing with you guys, like what keeps me up at night. And no matter what, these are going to keep me up every night. As long as I'm running a short-term rental business, these are the questions that will change. And I'll have an answer for them today, and that answer will be different in a week, in a year, and start with the end in mind. What does that look like? That changed from the day I started it to where I am today. When I go to my next mastermind in 3 months, somebody's going to give me some idea that's going to make my vision change again. So it's okay. Just kind of know that your end, you should always keep that on your mind, but that it's okay for that to evolve and change as well. How do we continue to reset our guest standards without breaching our promise to investors, right? So this is like the delicate balance. How do I make sure I get into these properties, keep my acquisition as low as I can? I was telling you, 6% of my purchase price is where I'm at. I'd love to get that lower. Am I going to be able to? I don't know. So where am I going to be able to squeeze my entry costs? I might not be. I might be at my floor. And that's okay because we're doing really well doing that. But it's obviously going to continue to be on my mind. Obviously, I will not degrade, as you guys have heard. The most important thing to me is my guest experience. I will not degrade that experience. That's not going to happen. Now, how do we select markets and homes and agents and investors? And so these are things that constantly are changing. How do we structure deals? I'll tell you about how we structure our deals. We bring in investors on all of our deals, except the California one, because that one was more personal because we have to be there. You guys heard my allergy story. So our deals, we bring in investors. Our investors do the down payment. We furnish the home. We're 50-50 on the asset. And what I do is I pay my investors back 80% of the profit until they recoup their investment. We get 20%. Once that happens, we flip. I then get 65% of the profit moving forward. The investor gets 35%, but we're always 50-50 on the home. I'll tell you guys a cool story. So my investors mean the world to me. Like, they mean the world to me because I wouldn't be able to have scaled to where I am without them. And I'll tell you, like, there's nothing more fun than winning with people. I think it was Casey. I think it was you that I said this to. But, you know, somebody asked me, they're like, why are you, you know, we get in these masterminds. I'll tell you, the number one feedback I get, we go on hot seats and they tell us about, you know, where can we get better in our business. The number one feedback I get is like, dude, go launch a fund. You're giving away way too much. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? I was like, raise up a hand. Everybody here, real quickly, raise up one hand. Now give yourself a high five with the other hand. Anybody have fun doing that? That totally sucks, right? Like, I love building relationships. I do. It's why I was successful in corporate. It's why I'm a good husband. It's why I'm a good father. It's why I'm a good friend when I want to be your friend. But, you know, I mean, like, these are, you know, like, that is really, really important to me. Building relationships is like the most important thing to me. And so I just like winning with people. And so I have found that by getting them into these deals and giving them really good opportunities, it's not, the idea is not transactional, it's relationship driven. So it's good enough. Guess what? They're going to do another one with me. Then they're going to do another one. Then they're going to tell their other friends. And then they're all going to do deals with me. So yeah.
Line out your door now to get more investors to want.
I've got 6 lined up, and there's one of those guys are in this room. And so we've got 6 lined up, ready to go. We're excited about that. We love that. I love building relationships. I mean, it's one of my favorite things to do. So that's how we structure the deal. That's any questions about that? Any? Cool. That's my contact information is all there. You guys are welcome to scan that. You guys are welcome to reach out to me anytime. You guys are welcome to, you know, you got questions. I'm so glad to pour in. So glad to help you guys out with making decisions on yours. If you need a rental agreement, please.
Any questions at all about anything going on?
Nope.
Yeah, go ahead.
How'd you find your agent?
So I interviewed several, and one of the things that I wanted to hear from them was, tell me about the ordinances. And, you know, they all try to act like they know it, but ask really specific questions about ordinances. Ask really specific. If they're not aware, if they're not in tune, they're probably good agents, but they're not good short-term rental agents. Yeah. I mean, I want to put as much of the work on them as I can. I'm never going to leave this to guessing. I'm going to make sure that I know what I need to know. But if they can help me by filtering in my buy box. But I mean, I had one agent that I started working with that, like, I was real clear about and specific about what neighborhoods I wanted to be in, what my buy box was. And it was like, here's a good deal, here's a good deal, here's a good deal. I'm like, dude, that's like 13 miles away from where I told you my buy box was. You're wasting my freaking time. We can analyze. I mean, we're all trying to do real estate deals, right? You can analyze thousands of deals. How much time do you have? So if you're going to send me a bunch of shit that's not in my buy box, I'm going to quickly tell you, you're not going to be my agent. So, you know, those are the things. Make sure they're real respectful and understanding of where your time is and it's being spent, where your buy box is, and make sure they really understand the ordinances.
How many leads did they have to send you until you felt comfortable making offers that you knew were going to get to the closing table?
That's a good question. The first go around, and I told you our first time in Scottsdale, we bought 2 right away. And when I went out there, I mean, I'm really efficient. I told you guys, I don't want to be away from my kids if I don't have to be. So like when I'm coming in, I flew in that morning and I flew back at night on the red eye. So I knew I had 10 hours in Phoenix. So we looked at, I want to say 18 homes in those 10 hours. And then I spent a lot of the other time just kind of driving the market and understanding it. But our 2 offers were made on those of those 18 homes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, good question. So, you know, kind of feather in the cap in the 13 months we've been operating, we've had 13 rebookings. And that's something that I really hold a lot of pride in because it's easy to get somebody to book once. To get them booked twice is really cool. And it's a lot of guests. So it's building a relationship. Same way I was just telling you, I love to build relationships. I'm telling you, the minute those people are somebody books with me, they're like become my friend. I have 7 touch points with them between when they book and when they check in. It's like I get a booking, I grab my phone. Hey guys, just saw you booked. Thanks so much for booking. Can't wait to host you. This is gonna be so much fun. Here's what to expect at this house. Here's what the booking process is gonna look like, or the onboarding process is gonna look like. This is my cell phone number. Do you have any questions? Let me know. There's a text message. That's touch point number 1. Touch point 2 is with my team, 3 is with my team, and 4 is with my team, and then 5, 6, 7 is with me, to the point where they're checking in and I'm walking them through the house on the phone. So I build a relationship with them. I create that stickiness. One touch point while they're in the house, making sure they're okay. And then once they're gone and my cleaning team gives me a review of them, I'm reaching back out again and I'm asking them to save my number and reach back out to me. I'm begging them to follow us on social media. Once I do that, we haven't done any like discount codes on social media or any of that yet, but we're gonna start doing that. We've got our email marketing, our email list is built up to over 1,000. So we're now gonna start to email market. We haven't done any of that yet. So right now it's just them reaching back out to me. And we've had, I told you 13, we've had multiple other guests reach out and say, hey, are you in Seattle? Or are you in Colorado? Or are you here? Are you there? And we haven't been. But we know that our experience driven kind of, and when I say experience too, guys, I wanna define that. Like it's, part of that is experience in the home, and then part of it is experience with us. Right? Because I think that's one of the biggest thing is, is it going to be good? Is it going to be just like it looks in the pictures? Are we going to like it? Are there going to be bed bugs or like all these things? And part of that experience is just connecting to us. And when they know that they have somebody that cares like we do, look, it's not perfect. It's not going to, and we tell them that, like, we are not perfect, but man, we try our ass off to be. And so like, that's really important to us. And when they know that, they want to travel with us. And that's why we're not just becoming the kings of Scottsdale, right, and getting 50 there. We're at 5 there, now we're looking at Texas, now we're looking at, scaling California and then wanting to get into Colorado, because we know that that's how we can create this brand where when our guests travel, they want to experience new places, they're going to come to us first.
So for your branding, are you leaving anything, or do you have anything branded at the house specifically, or are you just using yourself personally?
Just using myself, our social media. We have QR codes that they can scan in and get into our social media that way. One of our core values is coffee. We hate renting an Airbnb and paying really nice money, or staying at a Ritz-Carlton and then getting in there and just having really crap coffee. There's nothing worse, and there's nothing, like, it drives me crazy because I know the cost of putting good coffee. It's nothing. Like, literally, there's no cost in that, right? But the difference that makes in the experience is like, it's invaluable. So we put a $3,000 Jura coffee machine in every house. It's a whole bean grinder. And what do? We go out to all the local coffee bars and we build partnerships with them. We tell them, look, we're going to market for you on our social media. We're going to put your bags all over our house. We're going to make sure everybody understands who the coffee shop is that's supplying our coffee. So we want discounted pricing. So we get cheaper pricing on premium coffee. We buy cases at a time. We spread that across all of the homes. And now our guests know that was so easy. Thank you so much. I bought coffee. I brought it with me. I didn't know that you were going to have good coffee. We never have good coffee. Now they know we're the coffee guys, right? And that's really important to them. We've even had several of them tell us that they went and bought the Jura machine after that. So just those little things that we do is just making it really sticky. And I hope that answers your question. I talk too much sometimes.
Well, I had asked you.
Booking or more, then they're going to get the personal orientation. But if it's less than that, they're going to get the video orientation. So it's not inefficient yet, but if it gets there, we've already kind of thought about methods and ways to do that.
Let me ask you a different question real quick, because we were on Zoom, I don't know how long ago at this point, but I just was fascinated at your ability to, I guess I'll call it underwrite the market, and an area you've never been or learned about or knew about. What you knew and the ideas that you had to market the properties of what you didn't even own in the specific market just blew my mind. So you can even get a little bit detailed, everyone, but just give a little bit more insight to everything that you're going into when you're truly analyzing a market, distances, locations, like all of that stuff. And just give a little bit more insight into that.
So what calendar of events is a really big deal. This is where your agent comes into play. Actually, you were asking about the agent, Gino. It's, I asked my agent first thing, what happens in the market? I already knew about, in Scottsdale, there's the Waste Management, and I know there's the Fiesta Bowl every year. What else? Well, there's a lot of golf. I didn't know that it's the bachelorette party capital of America. Crazy. More than Vegas. Amazing. by the way. And I'll take those parties all day long. Bachelor parties, no thank you. We are animals. Every man in this room, you are an animal. I will not have you for your bachelor party. But bachelorette parties I'll take all day long. There's the Barrett Jackson Auto Show. So calendar events, what's happening? Is there something that's just driving people to this market all the time? And there is. These are really sticky events. They are building the world's largest outdoor sports facility in Gilbert, which is 15 minutes away from Scottsdale, 20 minutes away. And that's to rival Disney's ESPN outdoor complex and host like little Little League World Series and soccer events and basketball events and all these kinds of things. But I want to know, like when you look at, they have like this year, we have the Super Bowl, like $4,000 a night. My houses are booked for like 4 nights each. We put minimums of 4 nights for that week. So, that weekend alone, we're going to pay for 3-4 months of our rent. But that seems to be happening there. Every 6 or 7 years, they get the Super Bowl. Every 4 years, they get the national championship in college football. They get the Final Four event happening there every couple of years. So these are all things that we're looking at. We're really taking a dive and understanding what is happening in that market all the time. There's again, because I'm luxury and because we're catering to a specific clientele, I want to know, why do wealthy people want to go to Scottsdale? Or are they going to Scottsdale? And you look around, I can tell you guys in Detroit, a Maybach Benz, we might see one every 6 months. If you go to Scottsdale and you don't see 3 in a day, it's a bad day in Scottsdale. So like these are real literal things that we're looking at that we're doing. And the other thing is, again, we talked about keeping your cost down. That goes to cost of research. So I've become a master at being able to research a market by using Google Maps. That is like the easiest and the freest tool that anybody can use, right? Just jump on Google Maps, and rather than spending a day flying out and time and all that other stuff, I can drive that whole market in about 2 hours by getting laser focused, really understanding, and then using data to help me identify neighborhoods.
That was the coolest thing for me, was just you knew everything around. You were able to literally drive on Google Maps and tell that everything and your different marketing channel ideas you had, like, because this was 10 miles this way and this was 5 miles this way, and I'm going to market this, excuse my language, shit out of it to this people here because of this reason. And
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
For the school districts too, I know you're doing short-term rentals, but typically there's a correlation between
So-
education and.
Yeah.
Just,
Well, where that's important to me is the appreciation. So we definitely want to be buying in good school districts because that obviously helps the value of the home and continue to rise. So that does help there. But from a short-term rental perspective, I don't really give that a lot of, it doesn't impact. But colleges are a big deal. I mean, for short-term rental, I mean, parents are visiting their kids all the time. Are there big college football games, college basketball games? What's happening at campuses? So obviously they're in Scottsdale and Phoenix. We're 15 minutes from ASU. And that's, that does drive them. We've had several families coming in to visit their student children. Yep.
Any other questions?
Can you re-explain the new money coming into
Yeah.
a neighborhood?
Yep. Okay, so we identify a house. Draw a 5-block radius around that house. I have my VAs go in and to Zillow and literally look at every single house in that 5-block radius. Based on the pictures, I want to know that we are less than 50% remodeled in that 5-block radius. If we're less than 50% remodeled, then I know a builder is going to see my house and he's going to say, well, there's a comp. And now I know I can go do a burr in there. So that builder is going to come in, he's going to do a burr, another builder is going to do 1, another builder is going to do 3, another builder is going to do 7. And so all that new money that's coming into that radius now, because me or one other and then me have set the comps, all that new money comes in. But if it's over 50% remodeled, not touching it. There's not enough new money coming. We can go find another one. Opportunity will come, opportunity will go.
You're saying those houses in the 5-mile radius are already
5-block radius. 5-block radius.
Already rehabbed.
Or not?
Not rehabbed. I want less than 50%. I want it to be a distressed neighborhood.
So it's the idea, even like for here, we are always looking at, hey, what's the neighborhood, right? What's the street? So if like the street, is there opportunities for people to come around you fix those houses up and reset comps. If the comps are already where they're at, and you're coming in where everything's done, there's not a lot of appreciation value, which is what his business model is after.
Gotcha.
What else?
Gino.
Any other questions?
Did you have one?
No, you got it. Thank you, Doug.
Yep.
Do you have any thoughts on oversaturation in the market right now? I know you're in the luxury space, so it's probably not as much of an issue, but just thoughts in general about
No doubt.
oversaturation.
No doubt. Always on our mind. Supply has exploded. We've just seen such an uptick in supply since COVID. And so, but I think it's in a lot of places. We have to, not have to be, I want to be in kind of first tier markets. By first tier, I know people that are doing, I know a guy, I was just talking to a guy last week that has some in Steubenville, Ohio. And it's like, he's doing good, cash on cash, but his properties aren't appreciating, and that's cool. That works with his vision, just doesn't work with mine. And so, saturation's important, but so is census data, and so is running it like a business. And I think, what's happening now is people are becoming more and more picky. People are becoming more and more aware of reviews. People are becoming more and more aware of who's running these things. How do I analyze this? Is going to be exciting? And that's why we're using so much. Look, if I can give you guys any advice for your business, I was the guy that was always telling everybody, get on social media, brand yourself, get on social media. Whatever your business is, I don't care if you're selling hot dogs, get on social media and create a brand. But I was the guy that wouldn't do it. Because even in banking, when I was consulting, I'd speak to a room of 200 people, and I got no problem with that. I have no problem speaking to you guys, microphone people. But man, you replace all the people with a camera, no thank you. And I've done that really deliberately. I finally got out of my own way. And the last 2 months, and I did it 2 purposes. One, we're gonna launch a mentorship. Not like one of these 12-month mentorships. I think there's plenty of those in the world. For me, I want people to take action. I want to help people that are really excited and motivated to launch into Airbnb but don't really know how. I'm going to do a 90-day mentorship for them. Actually, just launched it yesterday, and I got my first 3 signups already. So I want to help people. I want to hold their hand, and I want to help them walk across that finish line. My commitment is in 90 days, I'm going to help you find a property. And so that was purpose 1, and purpose 2, I want to raise more capital. And I haven't, and none of my branding, none of the marketing that we've done on social media for the last 2 months has touched on either one of those things. And I'm getting DMs all the time. Can I invest? Are you launching a mentorship, right? So it's happening, and I'm seeing it organically. So again, my advice to you guys, social media, as you guys know, can either be the death of you and the most poisonous drug in the world, or it can be something super, super valuable, just depending on how you decide to use it. Use it for your business, use it well, and it can really, honestly, it can open up a lot of doors. So long answer to your question, we're using that social media to differentiate our properties now as well.
Who's doing all of your communication for you?
Communication with guests.
With your guests.
So I'm doing 35% of it maybe, and my virtual assistants are doing the rest. Some of it is automated. We have some automated messages that just go, I have it tailored. So when you book in Airbnb, I don't have a response that goes out immediately because I don't want it to feel automated. So it goes out 5 minutes after you book. Hey, thanks so much for your booking. Can't wait to meet you. Look forward to hosting you. Follow us on social media to see our core values and our approach to hosting. This way, again, I funnel them into our following so we get their information and we can market to them directly later. But here's what to expect. Step 1, you're going to get a rental agreement. Once that's signed, step 2, you're going to get our guidebook that gives you all the information on our home, gives you our favorite restaurants, golf courses, et cetera, et cetera. Step 3 is, let us know if you need an early check-in or a late checkout kind of thing. So that's automated. And then I send them the text message, the video message, and then my team sends them the next 3 messages, and then I got 2 messages that I send them later. And then their in-stay one is automated as well.
Yeah, obviously vastly different than Scottsdale, but Pittsburgh specifically, I'm not sure how much you know about the city.
Not much.
Okay, I was going to ask you what your thoughts about Pittsburgh as a launch pad for SDR.
Yeah, did you say Launchpad?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
Wow.
Because the mentorship that I just launched yesterday is called the Airbnb Launchpad. You know, from the little I know of it, there's a lot of people that want to come to Pittsburgh. I haven't underwritten it, so you know, if I just like high level what I expect your football days are going to be amazing. I expect I expect it to be a good. It seems like there's a lot of corporate travelers that come in here, right? So you're going to get quite a bit of those kinds of stays, which, by the way, those are gold. You take those all day long because those are just the, people coming in with a briefcase and a carry-on. They come in, they stay for 2-3 days, and then they're out kind of thing. They're not going to do a lot of wear and tear on your property. I don't know that I would be looking here, and again, I'd have to look at the data, but like this is just me firing off, right? I don't know that there's going to be a big market for like 10 to 16 people like I do in Scottsdale. I refuse to do a 2-bedroom in Scottsdale or a 3-bedroom. It's got to be 4-bedroom or more. Here, I probably wouldn't go more than 3-bedroom. Probably my thought, but I'd have to look at data. But those are kind of the first things that I'd start asking myself. Don't think swimming pool is going to be a huge attraction in Pittsburgh.
Why? It's the sunniest place on earth.
Steel City, baby.
20 days of the year.
No, I appreciate you first off and foremost. You got his contact information here. One of the nicest dudes in the world, so especially some of you Airbnb.
I'm grateful for you guys.
Feel free to reach out to him. He'll be more than happy to help you.
Always.
Put you on the spot. Can we share your slides?
Please do.
Okay.
Please do. I'm so grateful for you guys. Thank you so much.
Can we share your slides?
Yeah, I'll send them to you.
If you can reach the TV.
Oh, I've never been too tall for something in my life.
Also, he mentioned the checklist. So I'm gonna ask. We'll get his Airbnb checklist out to you guys too, on that side. With that being said, he's only got about 10-15 minutes here. Then he's gonna head back to the airport. We're gonna break to do some networking here. Get him out of here. Feel free to catch him if you want to introduce yourself or anything like that for the next 10 to 15 minutes. Get your networking in. We'll get started at 4 o'clock. Okay, so cool.
Thanks, bro. Appreciate you, my man. Love you, bro. Thank you, my man. That's awesome. Thanks for that. What's up, Gino?
What's up, dude? Thanks for answering my 1,000 questions.
No, man. I'm thankful.